Welcome back to the farm. Stage 2 of this project, we actually get to build the guy from the ground up. This is the fun part. Remember, if you're liking my channel, subscribe. If you just like the video, give us a like. So, stage 2, the base is down, it's dry, concrete hard, and our 2 stands of Rio are nice and solid. Remember, it was the iceberg thing. We put most of the base under the ground. The gardener's in, we're ready to go. So we want to try and get up to about the waistline today. We're not going to rush it because the last thing you want is concrete running all over the place. So take it slow. First thing, always have a couple of practice runs to get it right. Don't underestimate how heavy things are when they're soaked in concrete. So, starting from the ground up, old boots. Old boot collection, select boot, drill hole. So, this will be fairly easy. Say's boot is going to be fairly easy for the 2 boots soaked in concrete. Push them down over. They're going to be the easy part. Second part is to get it right, or the portions right. I'm using a pair of my old jeans. Now the pants, of course, as soon as the pants get wet, they're all going to collapse together. And we need to make our man as if there's something in the pants. So, the first thing I'm going to do, now I've got a bit of steel. This is just Cyclone Proofing that they put in buildings. Any old piece of steel will do the trick. What I want to do is get it about where my gut would be, about that size. And then I'm going to cut it, thread it through the pants, which will keep the pants open when they're wet to create it as if there is a waist in there. Piece of steel threaded through the belt loops, overlapped at the front. Hot rivet in. Pants done. Nice waistline, a little bit like my own Hollywood waistline here. Next thing is we've got to fill these legs to be able to hold them out when the concrete goes in and they go over those Rio. Good old fashioned chicken wire. It's almost as long as my leg. I probably could just put my leg over, bend it around, and measure how much has to go in my pants. I might have thought that out a little bit better. Hang on. So here we go. One leg done. So these are going to go wet, concrete. This will go over top of our piece of Rio, push down. And as our concrete man dries, they'll now have a leg. Now, remember I said, have lots of practices. Do a couple of dry runs till you get everything right. So, I've had to go from help. I got my mate Larry the ladder. He's going to hold some stuff for me while I put it all together. So, in a bit of a dry run, it'll be boots on, boots will go on, jeans will come down over top, leg will come down over top, go inside the pants, pushing it apart. Yeah, that's good. And then it gets difficult because I've got to hold them up in the air. So I've come up with this concept. 2 pieces of wood, 2 pieces of old wood across my wires. Clamp that. This will be here, and if you've got hockey straps, they will go over the top and hook onto that metal bar that I told you about. So I'm using, this is Bricky's loam, or sand. Sand would be fine. Brick's loam is just what they had available. So I'm using about 2 shovelfuls of sand. And that was about 1/4 of a bag of cement. So about 50-50 on those 2. And then I'm just going to keep adding water till that's basically a sloppy mess. Don't worry about wastage, because one is you want it nice and sloppy to soak the boots and the clothes in, and then when they're on, you just add more sand and you use that down inside to start filling it up. In go the pants. Then in go the boots. So you want to get, you know, the good thing about it's nice and sloppy, it's covering the boots. Yeah, you probably want to wear gloves. My gnarly old hands don't matter too much. So I want to get the boot nice and covered. You still want to be able to see the detail in the laces. Okay, here we go. Hero to zero, or zero to hero. Let's get this underway. So a couple of little issues along the way. One, the pants were pulling in away from the belt. So I just, a few clothes pegs, and that pulls the pants back out so it's nice and round. The other problem is that his bum's a bit flat at the back, and I've got quite a nice bum. So I need to quickly just get a bit of chicken wire. I can use it shape my own bum, and then put it carefully in here while the pants are still wet. Now what did I learn from that little bit is do the bottom bit with a friend. Holding those concrete pants up and getting them over the poles would have been so much easier if a friend was up there and you were just louvering them over the posts down. A ladder, as good as Larry is not your friend. Second thing I learned was have some little bits and pieces around that you might need, like the clothes pegs. I had to run and get some clothes pegs, had to run and get an extra clamp because one of the clamps broken. So probably have some extra things around, or have some friends around that can go and do those stuff with you. And the third thing is, it's not a clean job. You're going to get concrete all over you. That's why we do this stuff, because it's fun to use your hands. But now clean up, we'll give him a couple of days to dry out, and then we'll gradually fill his legs up till we get his torso nice and full. Low center of gravity would be great. Now we can start on the top part. Whew. So here we are, 4 days later. The base is now done. It's full of concrete. The thing to think about when you're doing these is that the clothing, when you first put it on, if you were a concreter, you just call it your formwork. If you're an artist, you might call it your mold. In this case, I just call it the shell. So you create the look and feel of the piece by using the clothing, and then you're gradually filling up the concrete inside. You want to do that slowly because the concrete, even though that the clothes are dry with the concrete, they're still susceptible to water and rain over time and would break down. So you've got to gradually fill them up with concrete, and you keep all the nice structure and the lines of the clothing that way, but it's a nice solid piece that's going to last. Next part for this fellow is using a long sleeve shirt. We're going to fill the top torso part, get him clipping on the vines here, and I've got a set of garden gloves from the local cheapo supermarket. Fill up, put his hands in, get this part ready for concreting. I'm using a shirt that doesn't button up the front. So if you think about the shirt, the most difficult thing is to put it on a concrete structure. It's not like you can go waving the arms around and putting it over the head. So you kind of got to make it up before you put it in the concrete and then onto the statue. So measure up around my body and come up with the torso that's still going to fit my old shirt. About there. I think I'm getting fat. Oh, so torso made, a couple of arms made. Now, so put that inside the torso. Hello. Now don't also forget that I said you need a wire through the arm, which when this is dry, you're going to put the hand on and be able to pull the hand in. Now I've used quite a heavy gauged wire that allows me to bend the arm, give it a bit of shape when it's still wet as concrete, but also this heavy gauge wire will also act as some reinforcement when the arms get full of concrete. All I've done is bend up some wire, this heavy gauge wire, so it's got a hook on the end. When I fill it with concrete, this bobby bit on this end is going to be inside. The concrete will harden, that's the reinforcement in the hand, like this. This hook will then hook to those wires and I'll be able to pull that hand up into the arm and create the cork at the wrist. So, lots of dry runs, practice runs, don't be in a hurry. There's the sleeve, it's got the wire inside it now. It's got the heavy duty wire coming through it. There's the glove that's going to create his hand. That's going to be able to hook on there. Okay, dry run number 1. It's going to be heavy. Dry run number 2. Ready? Dry run says you've got to be able to hold his arms up, so you've got some milk crates here and a flower pot on top to hold this arm up, some milk crates on the other side to hold that arm up. Needs to be stable because this is going to be here for 4 or 5 days till he gets filled up all the way through the middle. Here's where the fun begins. Here are the gloves or the hands full of concrete and shaped. This one's got the clippers in it. Okay, so let's talk hands. As you know, I've made his hands with this hook on them, and it's a glove full of concrete. And this particular hand, which is the one that's going to be clipping the hedge, already has the secateurs in it. Sorry for the bit of shape. Now, as I said, the material soaked in concrete is stiff, but it's not solid. So you can still move these arms until you fill them on the inside with concrete, which is good because I'm going to put the hand in here and then I'm going to fill it from the inside by pouring wet concrete down the sleeve from the inside, which will seal this. A couple of things on the way. You remember I said put a hook onto the hand, and there's also a hook on this piece of wire coming down through his arm. All you're gonna do is hook the two together and pull that piece of wire, which will move the hand inside the sleeve. See, I've got the arm ready for concreting now. I've put the Glad wrap underneath and I've gaffer taped it. I've also put a couple of bands of gaffer tape up here because this concrete's coming in wet and it's going to expand and balloon and flatten this out. The other thing you want to do is, because I'm going to concrete this while it's sort of hanging down so I can get it to run down into it, then I'm going to put it back up on here. What you want to do is get yourself some rags that you can help just prop up and keep the arm nice and round so you don't get that ballooning effect and a flat arm on top of whatever you're going to rest it on. So just get yourself some rags ready. Now, to make the job of concreting into the arms and not getting it all through the torso, this wet concrete, all I've got is a piece of pipe that I can feed into the torso and into the arms, and I can pour the concrete in there, making sure it's going into the arm and not running all in all other places. Now, so he's up to the headless gardener. So I've been stuffing the concrete inside now, and he's all fill up except for this hole here, which I've allowed to go down here where his head's going to fit in. Mind you, this is the worst November I could have ever chosen to do this particular. This is normally the dry season. This is the wettest season we've had in a dry season historically. Okay, so we're up to the head and the neck now, which is going to go in the top and be concreted in as one single piece. So making the head is the first bit you do where there's exposed skin, so you don't get the benefit of using clothing to make your mould, if you like. So you've got to be a little bit inventive. This is how we're going to do it. Now what I've got is this Halloween mask, and you might say, well, that's pretty ugly. Remember, it's the inside that counts, a bit like humans. It's what's on the inside that counts, not the outside. So he's got ears. There's no way I could carve an ear out of a piece of concrete. He's got eyes, he's got a nose, he's got a mouth. Fill it up with concrete, then take this off. That's what we've got. So what I've got here is a wheelbarrow of sand, which is going to be the external mould and I'm going to put it face down like here, which will support him, and I'll be able to feed all the concrete into here. Now I just want to line this with Glad wrap. So remember, the mask has no eyes, so I don't want the concrete coming through the eye sockets. So we're going to give him a nice pair of blue eyes. So they go in where the eye sockets were in that mask and on top of the plastic. One other thing you probably want to do when doing the head is what I've got, just some offcuts pieces of wire, and I'm going to put that in there with the concrete just for a little bit of reinforcing, just to stiffen up his neck. You can bet over time people will come around rubbing his head, looking at him. So let's just strengthen his head and the neck, even though that goes down inside the big statue that we've got outside. Now, this is a fairly dry mixture of mortar that I've used. See how I can easily shape this? It's not going to run away. It's the same as I've been stuffing down inside the man. What I want to do is be able to shape it so that when I'm putting it inside this mask, I can press it into the ears and into the eyes and into the mouth, and I can know that it's in there, and I can build it up around the sides rather than it all running all over the place. So here's our man now. You might say he's got his head buried in the sand. We'll leave him in here for 24 hours. Here's my head, fresh out of the mould. It's only just come out. The concrete is still very green, so you need to be very careful. But one of the reasons taking it out when it's still quite green is that you can do a bit of shaping and a bit of cleaning. Now, I'm just using a horse curry comb, and you can very carefully take bits off like I've done here, which is going to make him fit into the statue. So, okay, being ever so careful, because he's still green and some still adjustments. Looks just like my dad. You can't believe how much it looks like my dad. Anyway, so in he will go. On will go his hat when I work out how I'm going to concrete that. Now I'll just put some concrete down his neck and set his head in it. Leave that for a couple of days. Now, brought a hat, local hardware, straw hat, standard material underneath. What I'm going to do, you probably see the weather behind me, I'm going to mix cement dust and this bondcrete together to make a slurry. Then I'll paint this hat when it's flat on the ground. It's got elastic in it, so it'll fit over his head, but I'll give this 3 or 4 layers flat on the ground, which will keep the structure and stop it collapsing when it's wet. And I'll do the whole statue the same way with the final coat over top to seal any bits that I've missed or bits that I've knocked off his clothing. Then we'll be ready for the big reveal. There you go, he's all finished now. Hat's on, and this feisty chicken's butted his way in here. If you've liked this project, then give the video a like. Even better, subscribe to the channel and you'll see more things like this. So, any questions? Put them down below. I'll make sure I'll answer them all, and we'll see you next time.